Okay, I am so excited to dive into this topic today. You probably know that 4 months ago, I launched a detox program. So I've been diving headfirst into working with more clients around veganism and fruitarianism and talking through, even though I'm not a vegan and I'm not a fruitarian, part of the cleanse that I do with our clients is helping them to heal their bodies through living active food. And so I'm super excited to welcome our guest today, Ted Carr, who is a former professional triathlete. He was 15 years a vegan and now 10 years a fruitarian. And to look at his Instagram, he looks like a bodybuilder. And I've seen some of your episodes, Ted, where you've talked about low protein. And you're also a future billionaire, according to your Instagram profile, and an investor. So I'm super, super excited to welcome you here to the Her Effect podcast. Um, let's start with just tell us a little bit about your journey towards fruitarianism. You are now currently a fruitarian, and what made you decide to make that switch? Have you always been? Sounds like you ate meat at some point in your life. So let's start with your journey and your story.
Yeah, growing up, my favorite food was chicken fingers with honey mustard dip. So good. I love it so much. And there was also a point where I ate so much meat and I was drinking so much milk because I thought I needed it. And I would even wear a t-shirt that said, for every animal a vegetarian won't eat, I'll eat five. So I was
Mm,
like, very pro, let's eat a lot of meat. Uh,
mhm,
And it wasn't until I saw footage of what goes on in a slaughterhouse that I actually got, like a punch in the gut type of feeling, wake up call to no longer want to contribute to that sort of industry.
mhm,
Know about veganism or Buddhism or anything. All I knew was that I didn't want to eat red meat. That was the
mhm,
thing. Googled, I Googled famous vegetarians and
mhm,
all these celebrities who were vegetarian. I was like, well, if they're vegetarian and they're successful, if it's good enough for them, it's probably good enough for me. So I'll become vegetarian. And I researched all the benefits of vegetarianism and I found out there's a whole bunch. And I started feeling really, really good. And then I researched, I was like, what's better than vegetarianism? Because if this is this good, maybe there's something else out there. And then veganism popped up. And I was like, oh, veganism, that's cool. Typed in the benefits of veganism. I tried that. I felt incredible. And then same thing, I was like, "Well, what's better than veganism?" And then people were talking about raw veganism. And
mhm.
so I researched that, sounded cool, I tried it, loved it. And I was like, "Well, what's better than raw veganism?" And I finally got to the tippy top of the mountain, and it was, this
Mm,
thing called vegetarianism, which sounded crazy, but it made sense on every level, and it was, like, impossible to argue with, like, everything just made sound sense.
mhm.
So I gave it a go, and I felt 10 times better than I've ever felt in my entire life, and that's why I haven't stopped eating this way ever since. I finally made it to the top of the food pyramid pinnacle, the top of Mount Everest.
Wow, so you started off more as a moral vegetarian, and I understand exactly what you're saying. I remember seeing the movie with Temple Grandin, um, and talking about that very topic, and so it makes sense. A lot of people are moving towards veganism and fruitarianism for that reason, and I wanna really dive into the health benefits because 'cause you're talking about how much better you felt. Did you have any kind of health, crisis or heal or disease crisis when you decided to start improving your diet?
Well, I didn't know at the time that I was constipated. I just thought it was, like, a convenient fact that I only went poop once a week. I was like, "That's
Oh.
great." I thought that uh, and it started becoming more regular, and I was like, "Oh, looks like I was constipated. I didn't even know it." Then I
Yeah.
also terrible skin. My skin was always super oily. I had really bad body odor, and I had terrible acne. So all over my chest, my face, my back had zits everywhere. And every summer, I
Mhm.
take my and I remember one summer my uncle asked me, he's like, "Oh, it looks like you got a lot of mosquito bites, huh?" And I don't want to admit that it was acne, so I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Those are mosquito bites." It was really
Mhm.
and I tried a bunch of stuff to get rid of the acne. Going vegetarian didn't work, vegan didn't work, raw vegan didn't work. It was only once I went fruitarian that within 2 weeks, my skin completely cleared up.
Mhm.
And actually, instead of being happy when it first cleared up, when I looked in the mirror and it was all gone, for a moment, I was actually a little sad that I didn't have a chance to say goodbye because it went so fast. My
Wow.
skin completely cleared up, but thankfully, I have before photos to prove that my skin was terrible because no one would believe me.
Wow. Wow. So tell us more about I remember seeing one of your episodes where you talked about because I teach on the protein myth, and I love that you talk about how little how little protein you actually need in order to sustain a fit body.
Yeah, so one of my favorite topics because it completely goes against the grain of what we're taught, and it's
Mhm,
such a helpful message for anyone who's struggling with their digestion and anyone who's struggling with thinking that they need to get a lot of protein in, spending less money on supplements, and they're not making gains in their fitness. They're not getting the results they want. They think it's a protein issue, but it wasn't until I cut out protein, like overt protein, I should say,
mhm,
started my digestion completely became flawless. So a lot of people think, yeah, you need protein to build muscle, but they don't realize that you go to the gym on Monday and you eat nothing but fruit all day long until Friday, and then you go to the gym again on Friday. If you worked out properly enough on Monday and you recovered between Monday and Friday, you're gonna be much stronger on Friday. So you
mhm.
can get stronger on fruit. And I just got back from the gym 15 minutes ago, had a great workout, and still getting stronger after all these years, despite just eating, uh, you know, fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, fruit for dinner.
Wow, and so okay, so tell us how many f I'd love to know how many grams, um, of protein do you think you consume every day?
Estimated to be about maybe 30 to 40, but it's non-overt. It's just like from mangoes and bananas and peaches,
Mhm.
plums, melons.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think what most people don't know, and I can kind of just give a little debrief on the detox program, but fruit is not only they're tissue cleansers, and they contain all the digestive enzymes you need in order to break down and assimilate the food. But most people, I love that you talked about constipation because in order to even properly heal your body, the first thing we need to address is elimination because that's where our body gets rid of toxins, and so when all of those toxins are sitting in our colon, it's being reabsorbed back into the bloodstream through the kidneys and liver, back into the colon, and then there's this retox thing happening. Um, so wow, so tell us more. I would love to know just what is it what is it like? What's your daily routine of eating like, and does food ever get boring?
It's funny, when you eat cooked food, you typically wanna switch things up, and you don't wanna go to the same restaurant all the time. You don't wanna order the same thing on the menu every time. You don't wanna make the
Mhm,
same recipe, right? That's why people love recipe books with a bunch of different recipes in it, because cooked food, you do wanna switch it up because cooked food can get boring. So we're
mhm.
thinking that a meal can get boring. But when you find, like I said, the top of Mount Everest, the Holy Grail, Garden of Eden, you find the perfect food, like, nobody wants to stop eating the world's best mango when they find the world's best mango.
Favorite fruit in the world.
Yeah. Who wants to stop the world's best honeydew melon when they find it? No one wants to stop drinking the best coconut water when they find it. Like, you just want more of it until
Mhm.
you're totally satisfied or until the food's done, and then when it's time to eat again, you want the same thing again because it's so good. So, I'd encourage people to allow themselves when you find a really good fruit, when it's in season, go and just stock up, like blueberry season. Just
Mhm.
load up blueberries, help yourself to 5, 10 pounds a day, just gorge on it. Because 'cause I've never met someone who can, like, overeat on strawberries or raspberries or blueberries or watermelon or mangoes even. Like, you're gonna reach a point of just pure satiation and pure satisfaction, and you're not gonna feel stuffed or grossed or nasty or regret it. It's just
Exactly.
oh,
100%. So how do you do that if I don't talk about budget very often, but I know even people who are, they're not really budget conscious are probably thinking, "Man, 10 pounds of blueberries a day, that sounds really expensive." How do you do that? Or just from your perspective, like how do you consider the investment when it comes to eating a full fruit diet?
well, a couple things. Number 1, I believe that the best use of my money is gonna be in my health.
Mhm,
And
mhm. Preach.
the easiest easiest way someone asked me today, they said, "Ted, what's the best I have $1,000 to invest. Where should I invest it?" And I was like, "Well, if you're not healthy, invest in your health first.
Mhm.
Application and investments elsewhere, but your health comes first." So number 1, that's the best use of my money. I'd rather die broke and healthy than rich and unhealthy like a lot of people are these days, unfortunately. Um,
That is a word. Mic drop. I love that. Mhm.
yeah, I do not look at prices when I buy fruit. I look at prices of everything else. Like, I'll look at a price of clothing and a flight and a hotel and Airbnb, but I don't look at the price of a mango. I'll just buy
Mhm,
it. Don't care what
mhm.
it costs. Maybe if I'm in Japan, because I think a watermelon's like $200 in Japan. So maybe I look at the prices, but nowhere else. I don't care. Uh, that's the first thing that I prioritize above all else. But the second thing is if you buy in peak season of a fruit, it's gonna
Mhm,
be the highest quality and lowest. You'll
mm,
typically
mm.
higher prices and lower quality when your fruit is out of season.
Yep.
S I'd encourage you to, try to situate yourself in a place where you can get the highest quality fruit if you're trying to,
Mhm,
make this diet work and get it the best prices. Like, imagine yourself in Thailand, right? How cheap it is and how abundant is the fruit there, right? That's one
mhm,
example. Or like in Vermont and blueberry season, they're probably like $1 a pound or less for blueberries there, I'd imagine, if there's
mm.
that abundant there. So,
Yes, get a freezer. Get a
yeah,
deep freezer.
that's a good investment. It's like a $500 investment, but you fill that thing up and you can eat for at least another half the year just frozen berries.
100%. I love that so much, and are you familiar with angstroms?
Angstroms? No, what's that?
So all food has a measurement of energy, and fruit is at the very top of the quantity of energy it contains, and so it's really interesting because when you buy what you're talking about in season, fresh fruit, that's like the highest quantity or measurement of energy you can get in a food. When I say energy, I mean actual, um, the greatest amount of capacity to hold nutrition. Um, I'm not just talking about, like what Nikola Tesla talks about with energy and vibration and frequency. I'm talking actual, almost like a calorie. Like it contains a certain amount of energy in it. So when we let our fruit sit on the counter, it starts to deplete in those angstroms and that measurement of energy. Outside of like bananas actually increase in energy as they sit on the counter. Um, the more dark, the more energy and nutrition it contains. But then when we freeze it, we actually get to maintain that same level of or that unit of energy in the food. And then when we put it in the fridge, it also begins to deplete. So the best thing you can do is put it on your counter and eat it. Don't let it sit too long or freeze it right away. So that's a really great way to exactly what you're talking about, like stock up. So we do.
And if people are doubting the power of freezing food, just know that if you freeze a seed, you can then thaw it out and plant it and it'll grow a tree. You can freeze human sperm, thaw it
Mhm.
out, inject it, grow a baby. Like, you can freeze stuff, and then when thaw it out, it's almost as good as gold.
Exactly, it's so true. So, one of the books that I've researched, he talks about having almost like an out of body experience being on full fruit, like, the amount of energy you don't even feel your body, there's no pain, there's no, fatigue. Talk about, like, how does it feel in your body to be at the level that you're at right now, at the top of the mountain?
There's moments of, I have to kind of ask myself, like, "Did I accidentally take a drug this morning and I forgot about it?" The moments of, like, feeling on psychedelics for sure. And when
Hmm,
especially when you combine this diet with a healthy lifestyle where you're getting enough sleep, you're around the right kind of people, and you're exercising in a way that you love, whether it's dancing or running or swimming, whatever. I believe that, that feeling absolutely amazing, it is a wheel, and there's spokes on the wheel. Most people's diet spoke is completely bent. So when you just correct the diet spoke, assuming all the other spokes are straight, you're gonna feel outstanding.
mhm.
You're gonna ask yourself, like, "Yeah, am I on drugs right now? 'Cause it feels so dang good." I mean, down to everybody who's actually taking medication, unfortunately, they're actually on drugs, and you understand why they're on drugs because the food they're eating oftentimes is depleting them and causing them to have brain fog and, uh, all sorts of mood issues, mood swings.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
diet definitely just one spoke, but it's often the spoke that most people have the most bent out of shape or completely broken, not even there to begin with.
Isn't that interesting that most people we take better care of our cars than we do our body. And there's so much misinformation. And one of the things that I'm doing in our world is, man, if we can just give people their power back, become your own healer. You don't need to outsource your health to a doctor and I'm not saying we don't need Western medicine, but man, I don't think people even realize the power of what nutrition can do for your body. And I love that you talked about you kind of went through an ascension of just continuing to go cleaner and cleaner. You went from not just vegetarian to raw vegetarian or vegan to raw vegan. And talk about raw versus cooked. I teach this in our detox, but I would love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing about raw versus cooked. There are degrees to it. So it's like it's not just raw versus cooked, black and white like that. It's what kind of cooked are we talking? Are we talking deep fried garbage? Are we
Mm.
talking about a boiled pineapple?
Mm.
So, like, your grandma's canned peaches.
Yeah.
There's a big difference in vibration. There's a big difference in how you feel when you're eating deep fried crap versus your grandma's peaches.
Hmm.
Um, or even apple juice, like pasteurized apple juice.
Mm.
Like difference when you're drinking cooked juice versus eating cooked cashews or something
Mm.
heavy. So there's
Hmm.
love to this. And so I'd encourage people to try different foods out and pay attention to how you feel after a meal. It's that simple. Be
Yeah.
your instrument of determining how good the food works for you. You eat a
Hmm.
meal and you feel fantastic after. Compare that to how you feel after a bowl of rice. Compare
Hmm.
to the mango. You'll add again. Now go eat some canned peaches. Now go eat some deep fried crab. Like you'll just instantly be able to tell. And so it's not just cooked versus raw, black and white. It's what kind of cooked are we talking? What kind of raw are we talking? Because I did raw the wrong way. I did raw when I first went raw. It was terrible. I thought I needed olive oil, so I did olive oil. I had olives. I had mixed that with avocado, and I mixed that with a bunch of sunflower seeds and and cashews and almonds. And then on top of all that, once I ate all that, then I put oranges on top of that. So the food
Hmm.
was terrible, and it
Yeah.
was super high fat. Then putting high sugar on top of that, the food combining was absolutely dreadful. I ended up vomiting one meal and felt terrible, and the next morning, all I wanted to do was just eat pure fruit. But I ate pure fruit the next day, I felt, "Oh, like, this is it. This is how you do it."
Mhm.
Uh, it's not only the kind of food that you're eating, but also, like, what kind of combinations are you eating it in? Uh,
Mhm.
and then it's like, is this high fat or low fat? Because even if you eat the world's highest quality fruit, it could be only avocado, and if you're eating high fat, you're not gonna feel as good as you'd feel if you were eating higher carb, like from mango or papaya or watermelon or something juicy and sweet, right? So,
Mhm.
but then if you cut out all fats altogether, you might start craving some fat, so you wanna have a little bit in there. There's a lot to it, but, the important thing, like I said, is just pay attention to
Mhm.
how you feel, and try to eat my biggest recommendation is try to eat foods that you could eat as a meal in and of themselves. So could you
Mm.
eat garlic by itself for an entire meal? Probably not. So therefore, is it the most optimal? Probably not. But can you eat a little bit and feel fine? Yeah. Okay, then eat a little bit and feel fine. But can you eat a lot of mangoes and feel fantastic? Yeah. Can you eat a lot of papayas and feel fantastic? Yeah. Can you eat a lot of bananas and feel fantastic? Yeah. As long as they're ripe. That's another factor. The ripe level. You know?
Yeah,
So
it's so
there
true. Keep going.
no, you gotta pay attention. Thank you. You gotta pay attention. Like
Yeah.
like, eat and feel, eat and feel, eat and feel, and, like, listen. You eat it and then listen to how's the belly how's down here feeling?
Mhm. 100%. I think we've forgotten to listen to our body. We've actually accepted the fact that we're bloated. That's just what happens with age or hormones. And the reality is yeah, you're affecting you, but, your hormones are out of balance because your diet's out of balance, and I'm not talking about counting macros and calories in, calories out. I really despise that message because it's gotten people so focused on the wrong things, and they're defeated, and they're indecisive, and they're really looking at the wrong things. So I love what you're saying. Eat and then listen. Like, I actually trademarked body intuition for that reason because it is so important that we tune in. And you talked about rice, I know that, man, the difference if you start actually listening to your body is there's a huge chasm between how you feel when you're eating fruit versus anything else. Um, and you mentioned something else I thought was really interesting. I'd love to dive deeper into it. And I'm totally losing my train of thought, but it's something that I think is so important and um canned. Okay, so when you say canned peaches, are you talking about, like, grandma's jars? Or are you talking about going to the store and, like, buying canned peaches off the shelf?
What I'm saying is see how you feel on both, 'cause
Mm,
maybe grandma jarred some unripe peaches that were has heavily sprayed, and maybe the ones you buy at the store are actually this in-season local, new brand from this woman named Jamie Cross who decided to start a peach brand, and so maybe Costco version is better than grandma. I don't know.
mhm.
See feel. I'm not saying all store-bought stuff is crap. I'm not saying all grandma's cooked stuff is great.
Yeah.
Eh, you've gotta pay attention and see, what's better. Like, people often ask, "Oh, do I do organic or conventional?" Some organic lettuce is completely wilted and dead, I'd never touch it, whereas the sprayed one is, like, looking vibrant and super healthy, so it's like, it's tough. In that case, I probably either, but still.
We live in a very strange world right now where I think there's there's a lot of agenda behind food because, I mean, we have more sick people than we've ever had in the history of mankind. We have more confused people in the history of mankind, but it really is simple. So something I teach is if you can't eat a full raw diet, and again to your point and what I teach is your health comes first. You're going to pay the farmer now or the doctor later. Your body will force you to either take care of itself or it will get sick. And then it's expensive resources, time, energy, all of that. It costs money to be sick. So why not just invest now? But if there's a balance to be found, I try to say 80/20. Do you have any perspective on like balance of raw versus cooked or um are you pretty much trying to stay raw as much as possible?
Good question. So that ratio, that 80/20 is something I heard in a book, read it in a book. And it's by a guy named Brendan Brazier, one of the first raw books I ever read. I think it was called The Thrive Diet or something. And he
Mm,
said he recommends a diet 80% raw, 20% cooked. And when I first heard that, I was like, that's interesting. If he's saying raw food is so powerful that you should have 80% of your diet raw, what would happen if I did 100%?
mhm,
And that's when all the explosions happened. That's when all the breakthroughs happened. It didn't happen at 80% raw. There is a
mm,
night and day difference between doing it 99% raw and 1% cooked versus doing 100% raw. Night and day.
mhm, hmm,
Night and day. It's like, I guess it's like I've used to do a lot of drugs, so I know what it's like to come off a drug. I know what it's like to come off a drug and just be 100% clean, and I know what it's like
mhm.
to back in. I know what that's like to dabble back in, and when I'm eating 100% raw, I'm feeling super pure, super clean. It feels so different to then how I'd feel if I was just to dabble back in and have a bowl of sweet potatoes some night or a bowl of rice or something here and there, which I'll do on occasion now if I have to. If I'm traveling, if it's hard to get good fruit, I will have some cooked food, but it's super clean. It's not gross. It's food that I can still feel good on, but it's not 100% raw. And I've noticed the difference. I noticed the um, subsiding of energy immediately.
Wow. Wow, what a great perspective. Like, what if we really just went all in on our health? Um, it's really interesting because one of the things that in working, especially with women, they're like, "I'm pre-diabetic," or "I'm trying to lose weight," or "I have this problem," and I'm like, "The reality is your body responds so quickly to nutrition, it will heal itself. It's not medicine, it's not even food that heals you, it's your body that does that, but what fruit does or what raw fruit does for your body is it gives your body the energy to cleanse itself, which it's naturally made to do. So, man, I feel inspired because we are very clean eating, very, farm fresh. We work with all of our local producers and farmers. But I've been really actually, even my husband, as I've been teaching, he's been going more raw. But I'm like, man, what if we just went 100%? Just to do an experiment
Yeah. Have you done 24 hours before?
of just fruit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, how did that feel?
I mean, it is. It's like you stop thinking about your body. You
Mm.
stop thinking about energy or brain fog. It's like all of a sudden you start thinking about the things that really matter.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
body's not a distraction anymore.
exactly. When you eat a meal of something that gives you a gut or bloating or gas or something, you're aware of that disturbance down here, and so, like, that's where the focus is, like, oh. But when you
Yeah.
eat a meal of papaya or mango or watermelon, now you're not thinking, "Oh, there's nothing going on down there." You're really aware of the absence of the issue. You're now aware of, like, so much more. Like, "Oh, like, I got energy to do this, and I can do this. I got mental focus to focus on this," and
Mhm.
you become, like you said, so much less focused on the body because there's no alarm bells being sounded.
Yeah. Yes, that's another thing I think people miss is things like low energy, acne, as you were discussing, brain fog. These are all signals our body's sending us, and what we've done is we've medicated or we've ignored the signals until they become chronic illness, really. And so the beautiful thing about the body is that if you have breath in your lungs, it's not too late. You can start healing. And the best way to do that, I believe, is exactly what you're talking about. It's eating a raw fruit diet.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a spoke, right? There's a wheel to this, and there's
Mhm.
spoke. Some people's sleep sucks, some people's fitness sucks, some people's relationships suck. But you
Mhm.
start somewhere, and everybody eats at least 2 meals a day, so most people 3 or 4 even.
Mhm.
And easiest places for people to start is with what's on their plate. And I'm sure you've heard the quote, "How you do something is how you do everything."
Mm.
Most people eat terribly, so they also therefore sleep terribly, enter relationships terribly, approach fitness terribly. But when you
Mhm.
to your diet, and it is the ultimate perfect diet, which is, in my opinion, fruit,
Mhm.
everything has a way of becoming perfect. You find perfect relationships, a perfect evening routine, a perfect morning routine, a perfect career, perfect fitness routine that works for you, perfect natural hygiene routine that works for you. Like everything becomes perfect because that one thing is perfect. Like
Mhm.
try royally messing one thing up in your life without it messing up everything else.
Hmm.
We all know,
Interesting.
we all know that if you royally mess up your sleep, everything gets affected. We all know that if you
Mhm.
royally mess up a relationship, everything gets affected. If you royally mess up your health, everything gets affected. So then let's look at the opposite. What if you royally perfect one thing?
Mhm.
Everything else has a way of becoming a little bit more perfect. And
Mm.
you gotta eat anyway. So it's not like this is something you have to go out of your way to do. You're already going to or you're already ordering food on an app. Just change the aisle you go down, change the button you press on the app and order some
Mhm.
of sure it's right, make sure it's delicious, make sure you're stocked up
Yeah.
and on a repeat. You're gonna love every meal, feel great, look great, and the
Mhm.
results very quickly. People say, "How soon do I see results?" I'm like, "After the first bite." Like, the first bite, you're, like, smiling, and "This is really good."
Yeah. That's so funny. I totally agree with you. I remember the very first time, a close friend of mine who's a vegan, we were talking I was actually at a business event and we sat down for like 4 hours. We were just having the best conversation. And her husband came over and he sits down and he pulls out 6 bananas from his backpack and he eats 6 bananas. It was the first time I'd ever seen anybody eat that much of one type of fruit in a setting, and it really inspired me at the time to start kind of researching. Now, I'm a master herbalist, so for me, I'm like, there is the balance of course, we want vegetables. Vegetables, I believe, seeds or especially sprouted seeds or, sprouted nuts in small quantities. Those are all structural foods that are beneficial. Um, to some degree, everything in balance, right? But especially with herbs are considered a non-hybrid vegetable. So teas and tinctures but maybe we would need less of those if we ate more fruit, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I found a lot of benefits tapping into that sort of stuff when my diet wasn't perfect, and now that my diet is what I consider perfect, uh, like the other day, I was going for a walk and I saw some dandelion, so I just picked it up and ate it, Just
It's
Yep. And
great
I'm
for the
like,
liver. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. As that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. I'm like, as I'm swallowing it, I'm like, this is going in there and doing its magic, and yeah. Well,
Yep.
it's not like I need to load up on all these different tinctures like I used to
Mhm.
because I've got the base calorie down pat.
Totally. Yeah, raw herbs are amazing. Dried herbs for even sprinkling. I could imagine like dill
Oh
on
yeah.
some cucumber.
Oh, do you want me to
Um,
do my favorite recipe right now?
yes.
Super easy, delicious favorite recipe. You can add whatever herbs you want to this, but you make zucchini noodles. You ever had those?
Mhm. Mhm.
Peel the zucchini first. And if you don't want to waste the peel, you can just blend it or
Oh,
juice blend
wow.
it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So peeled zucchini noodles, and then on top, this is the sauce. Either, uh, a lot of ripe mangoes,
Hmm.
persimmons. You can either do pure persimmon, pure mango, or mix them too. But that's like the base of the sauce, persimmon mango. And make sure they're ripe, make sure they're delicious. And then you add a couple dates, ideally
Oh, yeah.
soaked, ideally soaked medjool dates, but squishy, juicy, hyper sweet medjool dates. A couple of those in there. And then uh, you add some basil, a little bit of green onion, and just a little touch of dill, and it's
Wow.
over. You're not gonna wanna eat anything else. You pour that on top, and it's gonna it's it's the ultimate one go-to recipe that you'll need.
Oh my gosh. I've never tried anything like that before. That sounds amazing. I'm totally doing that.
Just make sure that if you're gonna use mangoes, like, if you are gonna use the frozen mangoes, which most people do, um, make sure they're thawed,
Hmm.
and make sure they're not, like, super yellowy unripe. Make sure they're, like, dark orange, properly ripe, because it will, like the dates adding a couple dates increases sweetness, but yeah, that called, like, the mango date basil sauce that I make, and it's so good. But if you got persimmons, throw those in there too, and that's amazing.
Wow. We have these little mini yellow mangoes here, and my boys will eat like 12 of them a day. I mean, they're just so sweet and good. And right now they are in season, but um I like what you're saying. Like, I'm always like, get raw and fresh if you can, seasonal. But if you can't, then I mean, like, I have family and friends in North Dakota, and they're like, the grocery store options are horrible, and there's no good fresh stuff. But I'm like, well, then frozen is probably your next best option. Um, so okay, well, man, this has been so enlightening. Any other final thoughts on fruitarianism? Some nugget of wisdom that you want to share here?
Yeah, I guess, just a real practical one is you can only eat the food you have, and so you've gotta stock up. I
Mm.
can determine if someone's gonna be successful on this diet/lifestyle but just by walking into their house and looking around their kitchen. Like, if I
Mhm.
don't eat an absolute abundance of fruit, it's not gonna work. So when I say stock up, I mean, don't go buy little rack of bananas like this. Buy the box. Buy the
Mm.
case, 40-pound case. There's 100 bananas in there. If you're doing 10 bananas a day, that's 10 days worth of food. If you're like, "I can't eat 10 bananas a day," no problem, you just freeze half them.
Mm.
This is a huge pro tip, freeze the bananas with the skin on. I always freeze them with the skin on. Never
You
peel
do?
your banana. Oh, yeah. Freeze them
What?
with they are 10 times better when thawed out and then put into the smoothie. And you can thaw them out in 2 minutes just by running them under hot water.
And then you peel them, obviously, like, you're not talking about eating the yeah. Wow,
Not
so
I may be Tammy, I'm not crazy, Jamie.
yeah. So wow, okay, we always peel our bananas before we freeze them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But then you ask yourself, like, "Oh, where'd you learn that?" You probably saw someone else do that, right?
Mhm.
Ever just tried freezing the skin on like my grandma does? That's where I learned it way back in the day. Uh,
Mm.
they come out way better. Like, people have my smoothies, they're like, "Ted, why is it so good? Like, I have the same ingredients, why don't mine taste like this?" It's because I do 2 things different I have 3 things differently with my smoothies. There's a massive hack. Number 1, I freeze bananas with the skin on. Number 2, I don't add water. You add
Mm.
something that you wanna dilute. I'm not trying to dilute the flavor of my smoothies. I want maximal flavor. So,
Mhm.
or if anything, if anything, I'll add coconut water or, some apple juice or something, but it's usually just because the bananas are thawed properly, that enough adds enough water for the blender to happen, to do its thing, or, like, I'll thaw out my berries, so the berry juice will provide the liquid.
Mm. Mhm.
And 3rd thing I do is I don't use a regular blender, I use a vacuum blender. So I suck up all the air first, and then I blend, and it makes a
Oh.
night if I gave you a vacuum blended smoothie versus just a regular smoothie, you would think something's wrong with the regular smoothie. You'd only want the vacuum blended. It's 10 times. Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, man. I'm so excited to geek out on this. I'm
Yeah.
totally trying that.
So if you combine, uh, tip number 1 with stocking up, make sure you're always stocked up. You always have absolute abundance in your fridge, freezer, cupboards, countertops, fully stocked up. And you make the world's best smoothies by following those 3 tips. You are on another level. You're part of the top 0.001% of the people doing this.
I love that. Wow, and so you're no grain, no nuts and seeds, no none of that for you.
No, like I said, if I'm in emergency, I'll have some, sweet potato or some rice or something like that, but
Mm.
on a day to day, it's the fruit, and
Mm.
nuts and seeds, no, like, same thing though, if I go visit a farm in Hawaii and they have some fresh mac nuts, I might try one, or if you and I go for a hike one time, we see some almonds, we'll step on the almond thing, break it open, eat a raw almond or something like I did in Spain. But it's just for, like, the fun of it. If I am gonna have a lot of seeds, it'll probably be in the form of milk, like nut milk, almond milk, or hemp
Oh,
milk. Um,
mhm.
it
Interesting,
digests way better for me if it's in liquid form. Um,
really interesting.
I guess if coconut counts as a meat, then I'll have coconut.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, as a
No,
meat. Counts as a
coconut.
nut, then coconut.
Oh, yeah, I've always thought about coconut as a fruit, but I guess it wouldn't be a fruit. I mean,
It's
it's not a fruit.
yeah, I don't it's one of those, in-betweens,
Hmm, interesting.
but I
That's
can live
really, really cool.
on coconut water, no problem.
Coconut water is so good, lots of electrolytes. Um, Especially right out of the coconut. I mean, if there's a brand that I love, it's the Coco Joy brand. Have you had that kind?
No, never.
Oh, Coco
Shout out
Joy.
shout out Coco Joy, sponsor the pod.
Yeah, come on. Oh, man, that's so great. Well, I am so grateful that you, took the time to hang out and share your wisdom with us. I know that the ladies here, all of our girls are gonna be so excited to try. I would recommend start with 24 hours, like you said. All fruit, and just see how your body feels and start letting that your cravings will change, your energy will change, everything will change, and actually, as entrepreneurs, I'm like, you wanna know the best way to make more money is to give your body energy. Because when you're fatigued, it's like, it's so hard to build a business, so thank you, Ted. Really, really loved talking with you, and, how can our ladies find more of you? Do you have any more resources on fruitarianism and, um
Yeah, yeah, if they go to my Instagram, just fruitarian,
okay.
then, they click the link in my bio and they'll be entered into a beautiful world.
That's awesome. Okay, we'll do it. All right. Well, thanks, Ted. Thanks for listening to today's show. Hit subscribe or follow and be sure to share this episode with a friend.